Kuni, a Japanese vision and practice for urban-rural reconnection, by Tsuyoshi Sekihara and Richard Mccarthy. Narrated by Kym Miller. Published by North Atlantic Books. The photographs can be found in the PDF that comes with this audiobook. Dedication. Dedicated to friend and author Ryoko Sato, 1962 to 2019. Forward. The moment Sekihara-san entered my house, I knew I was in for an intellectual and spiritual journey. I was not disappointed. Invited by my friend and colleague Richard Mccarthy, I hosted Sekihara-san to hear and share his thoughts about the connections between rural and urban places, with a handful of thought leaders working on increasing the ties between those often disparate worlds in New York State. I expected an evening of learning, inspiration, and cultural exchange. But being in Sekihara-san's presence is something more. Even through translation, one immediately recognizes that his is no ordinary soul. He gives off the wise elder aspect that one might expect, but he also exudes a sort of chummy feel. Looks you right in the eye and talks very directly about challenges and hopes as if you've known each other for years. The cumulative effect is that everything he is saying just makes so much sense. I've spent the last decade running the Glenwood Center for Regional Food and Farming, with a mission to create a regional identity for the Hudson Valley that centers on farming. Our hypothesis is that if we recognize the central role that farming has and still plays in this region, for our health, for our economy, for our environment, and culturally for our communities, then the sector, threatened by industrialized food and development pressure, has a chance to thrive. We use food and farming to build local economies, to nourish our communities, to attract and entertain our visitors. This mission to highlight and promote farming and local agriculture requires two parallel strategies: coalescing our local communities and strengthening its ties to that amazing, ever-changing urban mecca that is New York City. Sekihara-san affectionately calls the metropolis the Beast. His use of language here is telling. It's provocative, for sure, but also pictorial and imaginative. Sekihara-san describes the city as a big, hungry, living organism that is often hard on its residents, and, he posits, strengthening ties to its more serene cousins in the countryside will serve as a soothing and calming salve. He's not wrong. Facilitating that connection requires a complex approach, one that is laid out beautifully in this book. Glenwood's strategy has been similar. We train new entry farmers in regenerative agriculture. This new generation of land stewards is not your grandfather's farmers. In fact, most of them that we have trained are women. They are driven by social values of community, justice, and sovereignty. They have deep respect for the land. They are often college-educated and do not come from farm families. Quite the opposite. Many come from New York City or other cities. They are the builders of Kuni, learning to farm, but much more than that, they want to foster communities and form deep, trusting relationships. They are using food and farming as a cultural tool, one that brings its residents together, one that helps to feed their neighbors in need, one that expresses the environmental values of regeneration, one that helps bring people agency over what they eat, beyond what is available in big-box stores. We also do a lot of experiential teaching at Glenwood, hosting a range of experts to help diverse audiences, from CEOs to school teachers, about why supporting a regional food system is so important. And we build coalitions. This work is complicated, unpredictable, and time-consuming. But by fostering small networks of people with very similar ambitions, we create a web of interconnectedness that can stand even pretty big shocks, like the COVID-19 pandemic. Community-supported agriculture may be one of the most tangible models in the United States of the types of convents between humans that you will hear about in this book. a pact. I will grow food for you, you will pay me. That turns into so much more. I will nourish you with taste, you will savor it. And through that act of deliciousness, we are connected. All of this is working. We are indeed saving farms, getting young people to leave the beast, and work and live and play in rural settings, building relationships that form healthy communities. We are building Kuni. But we could be doing more. And in the following pages there are ideas that just make so much sense. My hope is that this book sparks the imagination of those who have not had the pleasure of sitting down with Sekihara-san to take seriously these calls to action, help identify the change-makers that are ripe for carrying them out, and influence the policymakers and philanthropists that can resource those efforts. We need efforts like these to become a more just, wiser society. Recently, I learned about an extraordinary effort in Zimbabwe called friendship benches. In public parks, trained elders hang out on discreetly marked benches that invite community members in need to sit and receive a mental health check-in. It's a brilliant idea, but I couldn't help thinking that if we manage to get some of these things right, if we build Kuni, wouldn't this happen on its own? Wouldn't we seek out elders for advice and welcome an exchange? Wouldn't there be friendship benches that don't need any markings? Hosting Sekihara-san was like sitting down on a friendship bench with him. I am better for it. The work at Glenwood is better for it. And thanks to Richard's superb and passionate act of ambassadorship in co-writing this book, you will be the better for it too. Kathleen Finlay, Glenwood Center for Regional Food and Farming. Kuni Manifesto by Tsuyoshi Sekihara. Kuni. Noun. Definition. 1. A nation. 2. An ancient community that is small but independent. A Kuni can be created anywhere through the determination of one person. Even a hamlet on the verge of extinction can revive its future through the will of one person. As we despair about shrinking rural areas and are intimidated by cities growing to a monstrous scale, where are we supposed to go? We are dazzled by image, enslaved by fads, and compelled to buy, buy, buy. Can we stop buying and start making? Stop viewing and start finding? Stop speaking and start listening? When did these things become so difficult? Kuni is the name for a new community. A Kuni has at least 500 people, but no more than 2,000. What is too small? Small rural communities in rapid decline lose diversity and experience the rise of mutual surveillance in small dictatorships. What is too large? In gigantic cities that grow exponentially, people become part of the scenery. Everyone is equal in a Kuni. In a Kuni, people share in the abundance and the hardships provided by the land. This brings people together and forms a sense of we. There is no discrimination based on race, religion, income, or ideology. Kuni is equipped with a Regional Management Organization, RMO. The RMO is a democratic organization that takes care of small public services. These services include diverse programs such as education programs to enhance children's 5 senses, programs to maintain the health of the elderly, and administrative tasks. The RMO also serves as an intermediary for repeat visitors, nurturing regional economies using local resources, implementing small-scale transportation services, and conserving nature. By providing these services, young staff at an RMO also hone their skills in comprehensive policymaking. Kuni is a link between residents and repeat visitors. A Kuni is not solely made up of residents, but becomes a community when it includes repeat visitors from cities who feel affection and a sense of belonging to the land. In a Kuni.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?